Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And a couple of cards using some of the new Pretty Pink Posh June release. I've done a video and I've done a live using some of the new products. I'll have links to those in the end screen at the end of the video. Today's video, I made a couple construction themed cards, had a bunch of fun with like splatter, got a little mucky with it. Loads of fun. So this is also like the post itself. I'll have a post on my Instagram. It's actually part of a hop to share inspiration. There's a bunch of amazing designers taking part. I will have a link to my Instagram like I always do, but I'll pop it towards the top of the description box below. I will also, of course, have links to everything I used in the supplies linked directly below the video. All of my links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That's what helps pay the bills and all the things. And then, yeah, just keep watching and we're going to get into making these really fun cards. So I made two cards because I couldn't decide which die set to use and they're both adorable. So first off though, I'm working on my backgrounds. And I have some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock that I cut down to A2 sized panels, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm using the Pretty Pink Posh layered street signs stencil set. And I've talked about this in many videos. I like all layering stencils. Like, who are we kidding, honestly? But I really like the Pretty Pink Posh ones. They're so cute. And this one, I don't know what it is, like they're construction theme cards, but they're adorable. They're fun. So I'm using Distress Oxide inks because I love me some Distress Oxide ink on craft cardstock. It just works. I loves it. And I'm using my little picket fence pint-sized paper pouncers because they're small, so I can do, multiple colors like this. I'll sometimes even kind of use the edge of the little pouncer here and there to kind of get into some of those areas because I am not going to mask off anything. And also it doesn't matter because I'm going to add splatter and, all the other things. And I also don't care if I kind of go over the edges onto, other images with any of the colors because it's not going to matter. When it's all done, all said and done, it just doesn't matter. So I just kind of worked back and forth using the little pouncers and the Distress Oxides. I used mustard seed, carved pumpkin, and candied apple. And then for this layer, I'm going to use black soot Distress Oxide ink. And I used my pouncer for most of it, but then I also pulled out one of my little detail, like my little tiny blending brush, just to get right in there with some of the really fine detail because the little lettering and whatnot is tiny on these stencils. So I just swirled the ink that is left on the stencil from the pouncer. I just used that with the brush, swirled it onto the letters, got all that. We're good to go. So I'm also working on my Waffle Flower grip mat. These grip mats, just like the ones from Picket Fence, the ones from Altenew, these are high quality photopolymer, same as your stamps. So you just clean them like you would your stamps. So either just wipe it with a baby wipe. I'll rinse it off with water. Just remember, do not soak these in water, just like your stamps, and do not use alcohol or like abrasive cleaners. Same with on your stamps. You do not want to do that. You do not want to wreck those things. So I just wiped the grip mat off, and then I'm going to add splatter because, of course, 1, I like doing it, and 2, it's perfect for cards like this. It's a construction zone. It's going to be messy. So I've talked about this in recent videos. This is my Distress watercolor pencil palette. I will post a link to the video I did showing how to make this specific palette because, yeah, it's super simple and I use it to watercolor. But more recently, I've been using this as like my splatter palette and it makes me happy because I've got, just a whole rainbow of colors right in there that I can just swirl my wet brush in. And that's what I did. I just get my little fan brush, I dip it in water, and then I swirl it in whatever color. And then I've got splatter and I love it. So that's what I did. I just splattered the heck out of these backgrounds, with the brown shade. I can't remember if that's ground espresso. I never labeled this palette. I was like, I know most of the colors off by heart, but yeah, the brown one. Whatever brown. You can use paint for that kind of stuff too. You could use ink. You know, sky's the limit when it comes to splatter. So anyhow, I set those backgrounds aside. And then I just die cut smooth white cardstock. This first one is the Pretty Pink Posh big dump truck die set. Again, it is, it's just cute. Seriously, it's so fun. You could die cut all this from color cardstock and, you know, put it together, call it a day. It'll look super cute too. But when I get started with something, I just kind of continue with it. So I started with the Distress Oxides and I was like, I want to just color all these pieces with the oxides. So that's just what I did. So I die cut the pieces from the smooth white cardstock, stuck them to my grit mat, and then I'm using the oxides and my little pouncers to color the pieces. So for the red, I did a mixture of candied apple and fired brick. And then for things like the little window, I use speckled egg. I'll have links to, like, I'll have all the colors I use, like, listed in the supplies. The wheels were black soot, of course. And then things like the little hubcaps and the bumpers and whatnot, I just used weathered wood. And then for the dirt and all that, I used gathered twigs and ground espresso. So added all that color and then remembered I had that little piece that I was like, this looks like it would be the headlights. So I'm going to use just mustard seed on that little piece. And then once I've got ink added to all of these, you let it dry, which doesn't take very long. And then I'm going to start assembling my little dump truck. So liquid glue, always, especially for things like this. It's just easier in my opinion. But again, I'm also super comfortable with working with liquid glue. So assembling it is, like I said, simple, honestly. You could also get creative with these because of the way the dies are separate. I'll mention that too with the big excavator when I get to it. But with this one, you could adhere the back portion, you know, angled upwards as if it's actually dumping, you know, things. So I like that. I like having options. It's however you want to adhere things, like whatever little scene and whatnot that you're trying to build. So I just kept everything like basically as it sort of was meant to be, or how I assume it's meant to be. And my little embellishment wand, this always comes in handy when adhering little pieces like this. I can just pick it up with that, press it into place. I'm using my craft tacky glue with my precision glue press. A lot of people have been asking me about that. I do have a review of that on my channel. I posted that a few months ago. But that's what that is. And yeah, just kind of worked almost top down in a sense, assembling this little truck, and I was having fun with it. So got the wheels in place, and then those little individual pieces I just adhered. You could die cut like multiples of those if you wanted, and just like pile it all up on the back. That would look really cute too. But I kept it as is. And then I did the exact same thing with the Pretty Pink Posh big excavator die set. Again, it's beyond adorable, really. I wish I had this a few years ago, because I would have been making these. And then, yeah, because this one is specifically too, you can make this interactive. I would have made so many of these and my kids would have lost their minds. But anyway, I did the same thing. I die cut all the pieces from just smooth white cardstock, stuck all the pieces to my grit mat, and I kind of organized them by the colors I was planning on using, because that just made life a little simpler. And then this one I made yellow. And then, so that was the mustard seed. And then for the, again, hubcaps and the little bits, I used the weathered wood. And then for these pieces that like make it the excavator, as well as like the wheels, I decided to do this color as well. This was hickory smoke. And then speckled egg again for the little window, and then the gathered twigs and ground espresso for the little bit of dirt, and then black soot, of course, for the tracks that the wheels are in. So got all that, and then to adhere this same thing, I just used liquid glue. But the thing you could do differently with this is use like mini brads to attach the oval pieces. I don't know what they're actually supposed to be called. You know, I didn't bother to like Google that. Like, what are the terms that you call? The pieces of an excavator. I have no idea. The movable arm, whatever. Yeah, if you use brads, like pierce holes through it instead and use brads, it could move. That would be so cute. I wanted to do that. Do you think I could find my brad? I still have some. I've got a few in my stash. You know, those of us that have been making cards for the last, couple decades. Brads used to be a thing. We used to use them all the time on every single card. I have not used a brad in years and years and years. And then, of course, something like this comes along and I'm like, oh, so little silver mini brads right there at each of those joints. And then it could move around. How cute would that be? Seriously. You could even like position it like on the card and have it move so that it would like, and then have it connect to like maybe a gift card. You guys, I need more hours in the day. But yeah, so you could have it like dig up either a little sentiment or a gift card or something. How cute would that be? So yeah, that's another option you could have with this. I had so much fun putting these together, and then I was like, these are the cutest things ever. And then yeah, if I could find the little mini brads, because I know I have them. I have 2 packs of them for sure. Little silver ones and little white ones. They would have been perfect. But anyway, I gave you guys the ideas. Someone else can take it and run with it. It would be super cute. So once those are assembled, I also used the street wafer die. I used this in one of the earlier videos I did with this release. This is from the Pretty Pink Posh City Buildings die set. And same thing. I die cut just white cardstock. And you could die cut black cardstock and skip this step. But I like the texture adding like pouncing the Oxide ink. It's different than just solid color cardstock. And especially with these, I purposely didn't like completely cover them. Like I wanted that bit of texture and unevenness because it's supposed to be the road. The road isn't solid one color perfection. I wish they were, but anyway. After I pounced on the black soot ink, same thing. Gonna put that into my splat box, and I'm gonna add splatter to this to again just enhance that texture, and also like the road ain't clean either. So I did black first just to give it that little extra something. So using my Distress watercolor pencil palette and my little fan brush, and yeah, I've got my big jar of water that I keep off to the side that I use for watercoloring and things like that. And that's what I dip my brush into to get it wet, and then just swirl it in here. It activates everything, and then it puts it into a good splatterable consistency. So I added the black, and then I added a bunch of brown, of course. And then I'm going to take these out of here and set them aside to dry. And then I need to add some splatter to my 2 construction vehicles because they're not going to be clean. They're not going to be pristine. So they need a bit too. And that, again, it's another thing where it was like, if I have more time if I had more hours in the day and could really just keep going, because, you could add little rust bits to these and just really amp it up. There's so many things you could do, but I just added some splatter, dirtied them up a bit. And then once my little road pieces were dry, I flipped them over. I put washi tape on the back of them so that I can inlay the little pieces for the lines down the center. You could just glue just a strip of white cardstock to the back of it. That would be fine. But I kept all the little pieces. I showed this in the previous video as well because I just prefer the look of it being inlay like that. So I added little dabs of glue so that these don't, eventually fall out. And again, this is where the like embellishment wand comes into play because these pieces are small. So I can just pick them up, pop them into place, done. It's one of those like sort of mindless tasks that I can zone out to other things, although this only took a couple minutes to do. So I did that with all the pieces. And then for my sentiments, I'm using a sentiment from the Pretty Pink Posh Construction Editions clear stamps. This is one of the new little sets. And I loved this little "You Are Tons of Fun" sentiment. I was like, this is actually kind of perfect because it keeps these cards a little open-ended. It could be a birthday card. It could be just like a cute little like end of the year card, like sort of an any occasion sort of card, which I like having those on hand because you just never know sometimes. So I white heat embossed those onto just pieces of black cardstock. So I'd use my anti-static powder tool, stamp the sentiments with clear embossing ink, white embossing powder, melted that, remove the excess anti-static powder with my microfiber cloth, and then I just die cut those with a circle wafer die from my stash. And then the backgrounds I trimmed down just a little bit. I trimmed them down to about 4 inches by 5¼ inches, just slightly smaller than an A2 card. And then after I trim them down, I'm going to adhere my little road pieces to these, and then I'm going to trim off the excess with scissors and hold those down with just my little magnets, because my work surface is magnetic. So that'll just hold that in place so I can do the second one. And exact same thing. I'm going to adhere the little road onto the background, flip it over, trim off the excess. And then I decided that the edges of these panels needed to be roughed up because, again, I got splatter going on, you know, everything's a little rough. So I used my little Tim Holtz paper distressor. I've shown this in a bunch of videos. This thing has been around for, again, eons. And roughed up all those edges, kind of curled up a couple of the corners too while I was at it, because why not? And then once I got all of those edges roughed up, I'm also going to add a little bit of baker's twine because I'm still on that kick, you know, started using it again a couple months ago, whenever it was. And yeah, it gives the cards a little extra something. So I've got some brown and white baker's twine. So I'm going to wrap this around my card front, just right at the bottom of the roads here. And then, as always, reverse tweezers. Absolute must have, because you start your knot, the reverse tweezers hold it in place so I can sit and fiddle with making my bows and getting them the way I want them. And then once I'm happy, pull it tight, remove the reverse tweezers, pull it tight again, and then we're good. Trim off the excess, and then I repeated the exact same thing on the second card. And then to adhere my little construction vehicles, I'm just going to use some thin foam squares. So that just pops them up, gives everything a little bit more dimension. And then the sentiment I'm going to pop into place with regulation sized foam squares. So that pops it up just that little bit more. And this was also why I chose to do the road pieces with the Oxide ink, because then the sentiments kind of pop a little bit more on the solid black cardstock. Again, it's a subtle thing, but there's always sort of a method to the madness. So I did the same thing with the second card. And then my card bases are top folding A2 white note cards. And this is why I did 4 of the road pieces, because I'm putting these road pieces on the insides of the cards. I decided not to add any sentiments or anything else to the insides because those road pieces are kind of wide. Plus, like I said, I wanted to keep these a little more open-ended, but I wasn't going to leave it with just the roads, of course, you know, because I was like, the insides can't be clean and pristine when the outsides are, you know, splattery and roughed up and all the things. So I adhered the road pieces to the insides of these cards, and then I just propped up these card bases because they're too big to fit in my Misty, and I only want splatter along kind of the very bottom, you know, because I still need to leave space to be able to write something. So I just kind of prop these up into my splat box, which is really hard to film. Plus, you know, I've got, you know, a square foot of working space. I've talked about this. You guys know. You guys understand. It just keeps getting smaller and smaller. So I splattered just along the bottom, let that dry, adhered the card fronts, and these cards were complete. So hope you guys enjoyed this. I had a ton of fun making these. Like I said in the intro, I will have a link to my Instagram. I'll have the supply list, links all the supplies I use. That will be in the description box directly below the video. And then at the very end of the video, I'll link to those 2 other Pretty Pink Posh videos I've done recently, as well as the one for the Distress Watercolor Pencil Palette. So that'll be at the end for anyone who wants to check it out. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting. It helps a ton. I very, very much appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.